Donald Trump's attempt to justify sending troops to Los Angeles has already backfired thanks to a viral video that shows him expressing a very different opinion. How is he going to explain this one? Welcome to Occupy Democrats. I'm David Reddish. The anti-ICE protests in Los Angeles continue to dominate headlines today, as Trump's budget bill has stalled in the Senate, and he keeps backing down on his proposed tariffs. It also helps that California Governor Gavin Newsom, himself a likely presidential candidate in 2028, is pushing back against Trump with steely resolve and with lawsuits. Take a look.
What began as peaceful protests across Los Angeles on Sunday once again turned violent as marchers broke through a police line and blocked off a major highway in the latest flashpoint against a surge of government immigration raids across the city. Flags and chants met with tear gas, stun grenades and rubber bullets. Dozens of people have been detained in 3 days of protests.
Y'all told us to come here for opportunity. We came, and then now it's like, oh, you have to leave. But when I was the working class, y'all loved me.
Now as they're standing up.
And if the police say their use of rubber bullets was targeted at protesters, watch this moment when an Australian reporter was broadcasting live.
Moving them on through the heart of LA.
She was one of several journalists injured in chaotic scenes as masked protesters set fire to cars and hurled rocks at police. Donald Trump stands accused of deliberately stoking the chaos by deploying 2,000 National Guard troops without the standard request or approval of the state governor, Gavin Newsom, Trump's old Democratic foe.
Donald Trump has created the conditions you see on your TV tonight. He's exacerbated the conditions. He's, lit the proverbial match. He's putting fuel on this fire ever since he announced he was taking over the National Guard. An illegal act, an immoral act, an unconstitutional act.
It's the first time in 50 years that a president has bypassed a governor to deploy the U.S. military to the streets. And Newsom is now suing the Trump administration for precisely that.
For the record, as an Angelino myself, you will want to know that most of the city remains calm and is not anything resembling a war zone. Nevertheless, Trump announced that he will federalize the National Guard to take away authority from Newsom, and that he is considering calling in the Marines to take control of Los Angeles. It's important to know that the protests turned violent after Trump gave that order, which caused confusion among the guardsmen and police and made them more aggressive. The encounters here in LA have sparked nationwide protests against ICE in such cities as New York and Atlanta. Newsom, for his part, is now suing the Trump administration to block Trump's federalization of the National Guard. And ironically, Newsom may have found an unlikely ally in all of this: Donald Trump himself. A clip of Trump during the 2020 presidential campaign has found new life and gone viral here in California. In it, Trump gives a very different answer regarding federalization of the National Guard in reference to the racial justice protests in Portland at the time. Take a look at this.
I promised 4 years ago at the Republican convention, I'm going to restore law and order in this country.
Except in Democrat-run cities. Look, we have laws. We have to go by the laws. We can't move in the National Guard. I can call insurrection, but there's no reason to ever do that, even in a Portland case. We can't call in the National Guard unless we're requested by a governor.
Well, someone's singing a different tune now, isn't he? I don't recall Trump calling for then Oregon Governor Kate Brown's arrest, something he has endorsed for Newsom. Could that be because he sees Newsom as a threat? Someone unwilling to bow down to him who could become a leader of national opposition to the Trump agenda? Gavin's not perfect, but he has some remarkable charisma and political skills. And at a time when Democrats say they want leaders who don't back down from a fight, Newsom isn't backing down. We will have more on this story, the anti-ICE protests in California and across the country, and others as they continue to develop. This fight is just starting, and though Trump seems eager to have it, he may be making a major miscalculation. Civil unrest, especially when it involves police or government troops making mass arrests, gassing protesters, or, shooting reporters on air, for goodness sakes, That kind of unrest usually rallies the public and causes public sentiment to turn on a president or his administration. Look at the racial justice and anti-Vietnam protests in 1968 and how they killed Hubert Humphrey's presidential run. Humphrey was, of course, vice president under Lyndon Johnson. Look at the Rodney King riots here in LA back in 1992 and how they helped sink George H.W. Bush's re-election bid. Look at the protests nationwide in 2020 that helped get Trump out of Washington, albeit temporarily. President Taco is playing with fire here, and though he may not be able to run for re-election in 2028, he could lose major political capital, enough to sink his entire agenda and cost Republicans both congressional chambers in the midterms. At which point, the Democrats would likely launch investigations into Trump's recent illegal dealings, as well as, impeachment proceedings. This fight is just beginning, so stay tuned. Count on us here at Occupy Democrats to have more on these stories and many others as they continue to develop. I'm David Reddish.